one screen platformer is a platformer with only one screen. Yep, that's it for this week. We can all go home now. The show is over. Nothing to see here. Well, I could try to explain a few things, but I don't want to make this longer than it needs to be. As always, let's have a look at the menus first. It manages to impress me and disappoint me at the same time, which is weird. Not many menus can do that, but this one does. It has some nice tribal music that is looping correctly and doesn't sound that bad, but you clearly don't want to listen to it forever. You can rebind your controls for your keyboard and controller, which is impressive. Sound effects and music can be turned on and off, but not changed. Windowed mode and resolution are nowhere to be found, like on almost every indie game. I'm aware that you can Alt-Enter out of the game and resize it by dragging its borders, but my point in bringing this up is always that this thing, resolution and windowed mode, it's part of a game. It needs to be there. This is not trivial. And I had recently a run-in with a developer that simply refuses to put that into his game. He says, oh, but it's my artistic integrity. No, this has nothing to do with artistic integrity. It needs to be there, but I don't want to get pissed off. And this thing always pisses me off, but what I'm supposed to do? I am deciding to buy those indie games, even though I know it's not going to have basic options, but whatever, that's my fault. And I assume most people won't even have a problem with this, but this is a personal pet peeve of mine, so sorry if I'm bothering you with my personal pet peeves. And yeah, credit is also there, and a quit button. Credit's not always there. It makes my job easier because I can just look up the developer. And quit button, weird to bring that up, but some indie games just don't have quit buttons. That's a thing. Yep, that's a thing. That's definitely a thing. The character selection, which is also your main menu, looks great, and so do the characters in-game. We have here some nice pixel art, which is right up my alley. I might be a little bit biased here, but I think it looks pretty good. Maybe I have a bug, but I don't have music in-game. It might be intentional since the game has all sorts of sound effects, ranging from laser shots to sound of lava. But I don't know. It's kind of weird. I didn't enjoy it that much. It got a little bit stale after 30 minutes trying to get through the hard difficulty mode. The game is pretty simple though. It's pick a character, choose a difficulty, go through the maze, and touch the checkpoints and finish the maze. Nadia Stormhammer is your standard platform character. She can't do anything special. Vex Redox has a double jump, and to be able to activate the next checkpoint, he has to gather glowing orbs. Subject 95C is blind and has to uncover this stage to be able to finish it. It also has a double jump. The Royal Zombie King is a character you get if you subscribe to the dev's newsletters. I think that's a neat idea in general, but it could be interpreted the wrong way. Anyways, the king can gather coins, and when he dies, he loses 5 of them. At the end of a run, you get a rating of S until something. I don't know which the worst letter is. The worst letter I got was a D, so I basically failed, I think. Yeah, I think the rating you get depends on how long you took to travel through the stage and how many deaths you suffered. On easy mode, everything is pretty much a cakewalk, no challenge, just a simple platformer. On hard mode, things get a little bit more complicated. For the most part, hard mode is fair, and it can get through with a little bit of practice. But there are a few passages that go completely insane. I'm going to show you one of these passages, And this passage will fuck you up on every character. 3 checkpoints before the end, there is a passage that has a ladder on the one side with spikes periodically trying to stab you. That part is easy. But as we all know, what goes up has to come down at some point. And it is here where I think most people will get stuck for quite a while. What you see on screen looks pretty much like a stream of fireballs at first, but it's actually not. It is a group of 4 fireballs and a really short window of empty space. Then 4 fireballs again. You can use the blocks that are acting as platforms as a reference point to count to 4 and then move so that you drop to the next platform. Now this works fine with Nadia and the King, but Vez and X95C are nightmares. Vez needs to collect orbs, and guess what? They aren't in a beautiful arc from platform to platform. They are along the literal line of fire. The trick here is getting as close to the fire as possible and try to get the orbs. After that, just do what you would do with Nadia. X95C is blind, so you can't use anything as reference, except that you can. Instead of using the platform under you as a counting reference, you can use the platform or the ceiling above you as a counting reference. Now, I made it sound easy, but it is something you have to experience for yourself. Because, I still don't know if I like this section or I hate it. After a while, it grew on me, but I might be the wrong person to ask because I do accept ridiculous challenges, so yeah. And that is basically the whole game. The game is competently made. The only thing that annoyed me was the lack of music, but I don't know if that's a bug, and the abundance of sound effects, especially when there are a million lasers sounding pew pew pew. But there was nothing wrong with the game, and I think the idea is interesting. I've seen other forms of this idea, but never executed like this one. Considering this game costs under $1, it is a strong recommendation from my side. And this week we contacted the developer successfully. He was happy to have the interview with me, and you should enjoy it because here we go. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, who you are, and what you do.
Yes, hi, my name is Chris Zukowski, and I am the solo developer for a small independent company called Return to Adventure Mountain, and I make small retro games that can be completed, 100%ed, and are very fun. So my last one that I just recently released was called One Screen Platformer, and it's a game that takes place on one screen.
So first, is like Return to Venture Mountain your company, or is it like a solo company with several?
Yep.
It's your company.
Nope, it's just me. It is me, and the whole thing is me.
Okay. So how long did you work on 1SP, and did you work as a games developer before that?
Yeah, so I have released a number of games. I think my first one was out in 2011, I believe. I originally made games for Xbox Live, and then I made games for mobile, and then 1SP, which is the shorthand for One Screen Platformer, was the first game I have released for Steam, and I just released that just this year. I released it in March, and it took me clockwise about a year to do from when I first committed my first bit of code to when I launched. It was about a year on the calendar, and a part-time dev, so this isn't my full-time job. So, I work nights and weekends on this stuff. So, it took me about a year.
That's good to know. A lot of indie devs I meet, they have like a day job and then work
I know, you got to get it how you can.
Yeah. It's like on my side, it's not different. I have a normal day job and then I do YouTube on the side.
It's like being Batman, really.
Yeah, yeah.
You got a secret identity. You got to get in the cave. You've got to like work on your Bat computer. It's very similar to being Batman.
Yeah, that's true. So I have a personal pet peeve with options, and I noticed 1SP has no windowed mode and no resolution options. And resolution, I mean also sizing of the window. It's not. This is definitely a criticism, but I see that on every indie game I play. I'm aware you can alt enter out of that. I have two questions here. Is there a reason for that? And second, do you know of other indie developers why they don't put it in?
So let's see. The window. Are you specifically asking about the windowed mode and the resolution?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the honest to God truth, and this is, I mean, for the most part, there's just so many things to do that if I were to do them all, I would never launch this game. Mm-hmm. And so this feedback is great because I'm finding out the things like I like to put the game out, see how it does, and then if people respond to it well, then I start making all the changes that ties all this stuff. So I'll definitely be adding windowed mode and resolution mode. And the reason devs do it, I think, is just like we said, you've got to have you ever heard the term minimum viable product?
Yes.
Like if we put in every single side feature, the games would no indie game would ever in the world release. You would have 0 indie games because nobody would ever release. They'd be 100 features to add. So what we do is we release the game featuring the best stuff that we've got, like the core loop. We find out if people engage with it. And then if they like it, which a lot of people did for a one-screen platformer, then you go back and go, okay, what's the first thing that you want? Yep. Okay, good. Oh my God, the game crashes. Got to fix that thing. So, yep, window mode is definitely on the docket. And the resolution mode is good. You know, my best friend growing up, I was like, how do you like the game? He's like, I want it to be a different resolution. I was like, okay, because you were the best man in my wedding, you get that feature. So I will be adding a resolution change mode as well.
Oh, okay. It makes sense. I can compare it to the production line of my videos. If I would constantly be updating my videos, I would never finish one. I have to at some point say, okay, this is enough. This is the quality I can live with. And next time I do it better. I understand. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So and there's other things, like there are features that I thought were going to be super important. And I was like, oh, everybody's going to point out this thing. And nobody has. And so I'm like, I guess that's a good thing that I didn't spend an extra, month working on this feature that nobody cared about. So for every feature that people mention, like windowed mode, there's just 100 features that I thought I could slip by without implementing, and nobody cares about them.
Yeah. No, I like it. I have 4 of them. It's basically adjustable sounds, mostly environmental and music, and windowed mode cool. and resolution. That's always the 4 things I always look for. And almost every indie game misses that. And I'm like, oh, I'm so disappointed. It's a good game, but this is like the 4 things I need from you guys.
So your 4 are adjustable music, adjustable sound, resolution, and windowed mode?
Yeah, that's the 4 things I first look at. I first look for it, and it's always missing. I'm like, oh, you disappointed me. No, but
awesome. No, that's good to know. Well, see, here's the thing is I'm learning indie games on Steam because this is my first PC game, and there's certain things that hit the audience straight. Like one of the things I heard just before I launched was I've got to be able to click with my mouse on the UI, and that ended up taking me like 10 extra hours of just dev time to get that implemented, to be able to click a button with your mouse. And I was like, oh, I've read that people really care about this, but I'm not sure. And then now when I watch people playing on YouTube, they always click with the mouse on the menu, and so I'm like, oh my God, it's a good thing I implemented that. So.
Yeah, it's true. Like PC is like very keyboard and mouse heavy, but I played mostly with the controller. That was not criticism, but I can see that.
Yep. I'm just learning all the things that people like because the thing is, like, I love to give good customer support, so I'll definitely be updating these. I like to find out what those things are that seem kind of like not very big, and then going in and making sure that those are implemented because I want to give good customer support. So.
Yeah, I could probably give you a list of things I look for, but that's fine. I want to talk a little bit about the game, and I never seen this concept done in this way. I have seen versions of it, of one-screen platformers, but not at that scale. So my question is where you get the idea and what was your personal inspiration for this game?
Yeah, well, actually, I can't. I mean, I was totally inspired by this other company. They were actually called. I used to release games on Xbox Live Indie Games, and there was this company. They were called Platformance, and I think they made 2 or 3 games, and they were a one-screen platformer where it was very difficult. The whole game fit on a screen. It was very difficult. I was like, man, that was a fun thing, and I looked them up. I wanted to play them again, and they were really hard to find. Like, I think the guys dropped out. I think his company's name was McGurkin or something. I don't even remember, but they were called Platformance. You can Google them, and his webpage is still up, but you can't download them. And I was like, man, those are really fun games. Why aren't they out there?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, I'm just going to go do it. And so I just decided to make one. And if anybody says, hey, you copied that guy, I totally did. I mean, fit in a whole, and it's a really challenging game if it's on one screen. I definitely added some of my own elements to it, but yeah, I really liked his idea, and that's kind of why I added it. So where have you seen something similar? What does it remind you of?
Newground Games, I can't even remember, but it's basically one small square and you go through the one section and the rules change every time. For example, one is a typical platformer, then suddenly everything is bouncy, then the ground is ice, then there are spikes. So you go through the same stage, but the stage changes every time. You can look it up on Newgrounds. I don't even know the names anymore, but you will find not a bunch, but a few of those platformers that have one screen but change the rules. Yeah. You mentioned...
I should just explain the game. I don't think I actually introduced what the game is. So one screen platformer is a platformer, like a jumping, running game that fits on one screen.
Yeah.
And the trick is what I did was I just did the typical HD resolution of 1024 by 860. I always forget the numbers. But you go from the top left of the screen all the way to the right, but there's a meandering path to get through, and there's lots of obstacles, and you dive fast and you go back to the last checkpoint. I put the checkpoints in strategic locations just before a really hard section, and so the whole game there's a base character, and you can run through the game in probably about 5 minutes if you're a decent person at platforming. That's on normal. But to make it more interesting is I put different characters in, so you run the same game but with different characters. There's 4 different characters that you can use, and as you go through the game, again, there's somebody can double jump. There's different rules for each person for those different characters, and different goals that you have to do. So it's really the same kind of environment that you're running through, but it's a very challenging platformer. But the checkpoint system is really liberal. It really makes sure that people can respawn really fast and get through it, and that's the basics of a one-screen platformer. So just wanted to make sure that for those of you listening at home can get a good idea of it.
Yeah, I usually tackle a review on top of that. This review is a little bit shorter because it's a shorter game, but it's good that you pointed out from your view. 2 things. The respawn thing remembers me a lot of the Super Meat Boy. And one thing that you did, I think, correctly, which I have to praise you for, is not have a huge loading screen every time you die, but you can instantly jump back into action. Because if that was not present, I think it would be very boring. But let's talk about...
You die a lot.
Yeah. Let's talk about difficulty, since we're talking about dying and difficulty. There's one certain section on hard mode that I don't know if I should praise or denounce. You probably know which place I might talking about, but if you don't know, it's after the stairs with the spikes, and the fireball line in which you have to drop from platform to platform, and there are always 4 balls in one line. You know that place?
Yep. I figured that would be it. Yep.
Yep.
I'm thinking I might tweak that one a little bit. It's I like hard, difficult things, but I like it to be difficult in the right way. And I feel like I may have missed the mark on that one. I made it a little too hard. So I'm still trying. I might be tweaking that section a little bit. I know, and you're talking probably specifically with that guy Vez, right? Did you play him?
Yes, Vez is it shows it the best. But at some point, I started enjoying this specific section because this was this is a challenge. but at the same time, like, this is unfair. But it's a challenge, and I like it. It was. That's why I don't know. Should I praise it? Should I denounce it? So, what was the basic idea behind this thing? Because it's very, very tight.
Yeah. So, for those who haven't played the game, so Vez is this character where you have to collect these little dots. So you don't not only do you have to go from checkpoint to checkpoint, you have to kind of like Pac-Man dots, and that was kind of my inspiration was actually Pac-Man.
Oh, okay.
And what you do is you have to collect all dots without dying. And so with the design, I'm actually giving you a very specific path that you have to follow in order to get to the end. And the problem with that is there's some parts that are really tricky. And what you have to do is you're basically looking down the barrel of a gun, and you have to like dodge back and forth while bullets are flying straight at your face. And it's hard. It really is hard. And I mean, I made sure that before I shipped the game, I could do the whole thing. So I've done all the challenges. I can do it, but it was a challenge too. And I don't know. It's a fine line difficulty of, is it hard but fun, or is it hard and frustrating hard? And when I look at the numbers of people who've completed that, it is a very low number. Like Vez, the lowest completion rate. Like the fewest number of people have actually gotten that achievement and everything of beating it with Vez. I'm like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted more people to get through that. So I might be tweaking Vez a little bit, but
yeah. I have one game I played a while ago. It's called Anxiety, which is a horrible name for search engine optimization, but from a Russian developer. And I think under 2% or 2.2%, 0.2% finished the game because there are these secrets, and you can finish them only in every night, but it's very difficult to get there. So that's and I needed something like 20 hours to finish this game because I couldn't find out, and there was no guide to it. So basically what I did is make a walkthrough and finish the game in 20 hours. And there's some ridiculous stuff. I don't want to talk about it. But since we're talking about story, or I'm talking about story, one thing, I could not figure out what the story was. I assume it was something like a trial run or a futuristic sport, but there's no real hint there. Is there even a story? What was the basic idea of a story when you developed the game, or was there even a story?
It was a light story. I don't really like stories in video games. I always thought, like, if you want a story, go read a book. I don't know. I'm not a big story and video game person. I like more atmosphere than I do like story.
Yeah.
I like setting. I think video games are strong at setting, or they're very strong at mood, but I don't think that they're very good at stories. I'm sorry if you love story video games, but so I kind of de-emphasize them just because I'm not interested in it very much. But I've got some basic story. I kind of see them as like, I think the kind of course that I'm going with the story is that you're kind of like this band of like travelers, and you're like trying to go into this tomb to recover this golden skull.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the MacGuffin, is to go get that skull. And they're kind of a team of people who work together. And some of the background is like Vez is kind of trying to find the navigation. He's like the guy who goes navigating through the cave. And then the woman character, her name's Nadia. She like is like the leader of the group. She kind of like just barrels into there. And then the other guy is, it's actually a she. She's like this giant gorilla, and her job is to like just brute force find every edge of the thing. And so you have to go through and clear out the fog. It's like fog of war, where you have to like clear out the fog of the whole level. And so the three of them are kind of going in and trying to like discover this kind of like trap-laden tomb to find that golden skull. So that's the basic of the story. I might evolve it a little bit, but it has a story about as deep as Mario, and that's kind of where I like to keep things. It's like a very high-level story.
I agree with the story secondary, and my ranking of parts of the game is basically gameplay comes first. Story is like the glue between the sticks, basically. If you make a house of sticks, popsicle sticks, and then you glue it, you can build a house of sticks without the glue, but if you want to glue it, make it perfectly and hold be steadfast, you add a little bit of glue. Like that's how I see story in video games.
I like it.
That's always my metaphor. The popsicles are the gameplay, the glue is the story, the paint is the graphics, and so on and so forth. You don't need good graphics to have a good popsicle house. That's how I see it. I think it's a perfect
that's
microphone.
great. I like it.
So the game was released in this year, 2019, March 2019.
Yeah, it was released in March.
So did it get any traction in the indie scene at least, and how is it doing right now?
Yeah, I think it's doing exactly what I kind of wanted to do. So this was a game that I wanted to just like put out there and see, like, because this is my first Steam game, and I really wanted to put it out there and just like say, okay, what's Steam like? Because the mobile industry, the mobile market is very difficult.
Yes.
It's very difficult to get any traction. And I am so impressed with how well Steam does. Like, I get discovered by the right type of audience. Like, I was kind of thinking that speedrunners would be into it, but I didn't want to approach them because I'm kind of scared of speedrunners because they feel so hardcore and they're like really fast and stuff. But they totally discovered it without me even reaching out to them. And then they started doing a little like, they tried to create a Discord just to speed run. And I was like, no, let's do it on my Discord. So I created a Discord server and invited the speedrunners to join my community. And they were really nice. I really like the speedrunners. And so I'm just impressed with just people picking up the game without me having really to do too much. They're really invested in it. So I'm totally impressed with kind of how the Steam marketplace, people love games, whereas mobile, it's people that really just want to pass the time on a bus. But the people at Steam really want to like invest. The players that I get from Steam really want to invest in the game and like discover every secret and post videos about it. It's great. So I'm totally impressed with how it's doing.
I love that stuff too. Since we're talking about release, traction, Steam community, let's talk about something topical. Maybe you have an opinion on that. What do you think about the Epic versus Steam debate, and how do you see it? I have my opinions, but how do you see the whole situation right now?
Developer standpoint, actually good. And I mean, I understand different viewpoints from players and stuff, but from a developer, see, the problem is that I'm totally dependent on Steam. If Steam, okay, so every time, if you pay $1 for my game, which one screen platformer is only $1, so go grab it. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, buy that
price.
game. It's good.
I only get 70 cents out of that dollar. Steam will take the 30% cut. That's just the store's policy. And if it's just Steam, if we're totally dependent on Steam, then the market is very monopolistic. And Steam at any point could say, you know what? I want to charge you, I'm going to take 40 cents out of every dollar, or 50 cents. We're going to split it 50-50. And if only Steam exists, that's my only choice. And I have to say, well, okay, I don't like it, but I'm going to have to give up 50% of my profits to Steam, which is dangerous. But if we have a competition in the marketplace like Steam and Epic fighting for each other, and Epic, I mean, they're very early store, but they kind of keep Steam on their toes so that Steam doesn't pull something where they like charge developers more to publish their games on their platform. Steam is actually undercutting. I think they're like 15% cut, which means if I did put the game on Epic Store, I would only be charged like 10-15 cents for my game instead of 30 cents, which I'm cut on Steam. So from a developer standpoint, it's really helpful to have that competition, because now I'm not so dependent on one company being a jerk to me. I can really depend on more competition to really improve the experience. So I think it's a good thing from a developer standpoint.
I think it's a valid standpoint. Of course, in the end, the people that buy will decide. If you want to hear from my side, I think it's good. It should be like a race between which one is serving the better service. Right now, Epic is a little bit lagging. If they would build a good service, I think a lot of people would agree and say, yep, let's go with Epic. They are giving developers a better cut. But right now, it's a little bit wishy-washy, especially with the whole exclusive deals. People don't like that usually on PC.
So what's your not the exclusive deals aside, is there any, like, have you tried the Epic Store? Do you like it? I mean,
yes.
I've never gotten it.
There's a lot of things missing, like basic stuff. Like when I say games have to have like window mode, music and sound, they are missing something like a card, a wish list, a Steam community, reviews, all the stuff I use on a regular basis. They're not there. It's just missing. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they will change it. They have like a 6-month roadmap, but until then, I will pass. I mean, it's better for the developer, but for me, it's like,
Yeah, and that's the main reason why I'm not jumping over there. Well, first, I don't think they would just let me sign up. I'd have to be like a pretty big dev to do it. They're not letting too many new indie devs in.
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like me in the windowed mode. Like I know, like if Epic waited to get every single feature in, they would never release an Epic Store.
Yeah.
They've got to like roll at the minimum, and then they have to like add the features going on. It's just too hard to like do them all because a lot of people, and it's like the community side that you mentioned. That's like a huge thing in Steam's favor, and that's what I was saying. Like, hey, speedrunners found me. Like, there's all these little communities within there, and they let people, do forums and all that kind of stuff, and that's really a strong driver why Steam is so amazing. It really is important to people. So
because Steam is basically Facebook, YouTube, and a storefront all in one, and nobody got that mix correctly right now. Ubisoft tried it once, they failed. Battle.net succeeded a little bit, but they only have Blizzard games. The Bethesda launcher completely failed. Every one of those launchers, they just didn't get it. Epic is, I think, getting it, but until they get it right, I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's move on to other things. As far as I know, you live in Arizona. That's right, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Arizona, America. Have you already worked with indie devs in your area or even over the internet? You mentioned you worked with indie games on consoles, Xbox, I think.
Yeah, so just to make sure, your question is, have I worked with any other developers or anything?
Yeah, indie developers in your area or over the internet.
Yeah, so Phoenix has a smaller indie market where we've got a couple developers. We don't have many big studios in Arizona. It's kind of in the middle of the US, so we don't have as many most of the big studios are on the coasts like San Francisco or Austin, Texas, and then the East Coast a little bit. So we don't have as strong a development studio system here. And I think that's what spawns a lot of indies, is because people will work at a big studio and then they'll leave the company to start their own thing. Mm-hmm. We have a small development community, and I actually participate a lot in them. Like they're called IGDA, the International Game Developers Association. Mm-hmm. We have a local chapter here, and so I usually go to those meetings. And there's a lot of good devs that I know locally. But as far as really successful indies, there's not too many here. But it's a really nice group of folks that are here in Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, I do a little bit of stuff with them. Yeah,
it seems there's a lot of local stuff. I heard there was one Spanish guy. There's a Spanish IGDA, I think. There are Russian. I had a lot of Russian and Ukraine people from Hungary. The Hungarian guy was a factory worker, and he made like a really good 2D shoot 'em up and bullet hell. Like it's crazy. The people you meet on the internet, and when you ask for where they come from or what they do. Yeah. So
that's amazing. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was glad that they even responded to my questions. Most of them can't speak English, so I had to do a via text interview. But it's all on the Steam discussion page, and it's like, oh, I have a thing that I can put on. It will stay there. I don't need a site. I can just put it there and then link it to my YouTube channel, and that's great. Or I can also link my videos to the store pages, and that's also great. Yeah, so what are you tackling next? Are you planning on expanding 1SP, or are you making a second game, or something else completely, or are you taking a break first?
Yeah, I think my next goal is there's another game that I made on mobile, but I'd like to change it up and kind of do the same story, but and the game is called Zombie King, and it's a really fun game. It did really well on mobile, and I want to bring it over to Steam. And basically, the rules of that one is it's a story. And actually, you're based in Germany. I visited Germany a couple of years ago, and I went to Neuschwanstein Castle, which is this giant castle. There's this king who built it, Mad King Ludwig, and he built it, but it was like he used all the tax dollars for that thing, and so the people basically brought him out back and killed him in a swamp,
Yeah.
basically behind. And so I was like, wow, what a great story and story in games. So here we go.
He was mad.
So
He was a really mad guy. He believed
yeah,
he
and so I
believed
was
he
like,
was
okay,
part of a fairy tale, basically.
yeah. So I kind of carried over like what happened next. And so my idea was like, okay, the king comes back, and he's like a zombie now, but he doesn't have all he is a skeleton with no legs or anything. And so what basically the game is, it's a platformer game because I like platformers where you have no legs, you have no eyeballs, you have no ears or anything, but you have to like gather back your gold to get there. And then once you get some gold, you can buy your legs back, and then you can buy your ears back, and you can buy your eyes. And so at the beginning of the game, you can't jump. The game is in black and white, and there's no sound in the game, and you have to like buy each upgrade. And so like you collect enough gold, then you can buy the ears, and then there's sound in the game. And if you buy your eyes, then there's color in the game. And so I want to bring this to that. My next project is to bring this and update it for a console thing. So it'll be super fun. So that's what I'm working on now.
It reminds me of Upgrade the Game, if you know that.
Ooh, I haven't heard that one.
Upgrade the Game. It's
I'll check it out.
Similar to that idea, but it's like with shoot 'em up, and it's very slow. You have to grind through the thing. So I liked it when I didn't have any means to fund my games, but right now, but that idea sounds interesting.
It's fun. Look for it.
Yeah, no, continue, please.
Yeah, no, I'll be working on it. So just follow me on Steam, and you'll hear more as I get it implemented.
Yeah, I think we are almost done. You had 30 minutes. I have one last question that I ask every developer, and for anyone that is trying to develop a game, do you have any advice?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Could you repeat that question?
For anyone that is trying to develop a game as an indie games developer, do you have any advice?
Yeah, and this is a really strong advice. Like, and this is kind of goes to our conversation keeps coming back to windowed mode. Like,
yeah,
just release something. For God's sakes, if you've got a game, don't spend 2 years. Don't spend a year. Like, you read a lot of stories in the press about how romantic it is. They just worked on this project for years and years, and they're passionate about it, and they didn't release it until it was ready. Like, don't do that. Just work on a game. It's going to suck. Release, and you're going to get people that say that sucks. And then you note down what they said sucked and make your next game, make a new game also very quickly, and fix the things that they said sucked. And so that your next game doesn't suck as much. And that people are still going to say that game sucks. And then you release another one, and people are going to say it sucks even less. And then you just keep releasing. And you just have to release a lot of games, because there are things that you can do that matter, and there are things that you can do that do not matter. You know, you could spend years making the backgrounds perfect and making the like sounds so perfect, but nobody's going to notice. Yeah. And then there's other things like windowed mode, which matter a heck of a lot, and you don't think they matter, but people care about it a lot. And you can't learn that until you release your game. So what I'm pleading with developers is, don't spend more than a year on a game. Spend ideally do a game jam and release the game. Don't just hide it. Put it up on Steam. Put it on Newgrounds. Put it out there in public so you can hear, and charge $1 for it, because people won't give you feedback unless you have their money. Because when you have their money, then they're going to be angry and they're going to give you real honest advice. If you just put it up for free, nobody is going to care, because they're just going to close the box and this game was free. I don't care. It sucks, but it's free, so I don't care. If you charge money for it, you're going to get real feedback. And that feedback is what you want. Don't hide your game. Get a good tough armor, put your tough armor on, get that negative feedback and say, I will make this better. And then release your next game and it'll suck less. So my advice is, folks, just put your game out there. Clean it up, get it out there.
Okay.
That's my advice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here...
start a mailing list. That's the other most important thing. Start a mailing list and put your game out there, because a mailing list is the best way to get people to follow your game.
Yeah, that sounds. I have heard that a few times. But okay, good.
Everything else is just mindless advice. Just focus on getting the game out and a mailing list.
So that's your floor now. You can plug everything you want, say everything you want, except for illegal stuff. I don't want that, please. But
Oh yeah.
say anything you want to say and plug everything you want to plug. I will link that in the description, and then we should be Gucci.
Yeah. How about this? Okay, even though my game costs $1, the first 5 people who email me, I'll just give you a Steam key for it. So if you want, just email me and I will give you a Steam key for my game One Screen Platformer. So my email address, and you can write this in the show notes, is iamchriszukowski@gmail.com. And that's spelled I-A-M Chris, like the name Chris, Zukowski, ZUKOWSKI @gmail.com. It's like, there's no underscores, no weird numbers. It's just iamchriszukowski@gmail.com. If you email me that, I will just send you a Steam key. The first 5 people, though. I'll send you a Steam key for the game.
Okay. So you heard it, folks. The first 5 people will get a Steam key. Be quick.
Hurry it up.
Good, thank you.
Or if you're really nice, if you're like, you hear this a month later, it's a month later, and you're like, wait, I missed it. Email me anyway. There might be a chance that I could get you something. So, but first 5 people, definitely.
Okay, thank you for the interview. Thank you for talking to me. And here's where we're gonna end the interview.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I will definitely be getting window mode in there. So thanks a lot, Carlos.
Thank you. Thanks to Chris for talking to me. It is always a pleasure to talk to devs. Most of them are very, very nice. Maybe consider buying his game. It's pretty good. You might enjoy it. As always, take care of yourselves. Have a nice day. And we will see each other next time.